Well, it is good to see you. And since it is Valentine's Day, I have a, it's not a math problem, but I have a little problem for you. I want to see what you think. Can you tell the difference, or what is the difference between a $20 steak and a $55 steak? It's not $35, it's February 14th. That's the difference between a $20 steak and a $55 steak. No, it is Valentine's Day. Valentine's is a great day, and it actually kind of ties in with what we're talking about, because we're talking about money. We're talking about the money that we have, the money that God's given us, how we use it, what we're supposed to do with it, all of that kind of stuff. And if you follow Jesus, if you've followed Jesus' teachings, if you've read some of his stories, it's not a big surprise. Jesus talked about money a lot, but here's the thing. He's actually a lot more concerned about your heart than he is about your wallet. But what we do, unfortunately, and Jesus knows this, he's a smart guy, we get the two confused a lot. The difference between our heart and wallet, wallet and heart. And Jesus says, hey, your heart is what's most important, but I know that sometimes you get them confused. And so it makes sense to talk about it too from another aspect. And I didn't know this, I kind of looked this up. Over the last 12 months, the most popular nonfiction book category has been Frugal Living, which I thought, well, that's a nice way of saying, how can I be cheap? How can I be cheaper? And then it's kind of one of these deals where, they give you all kinds of suggestions like cut out gourmet coffee and stop going to the gym and work out at home, save that subscription and do your meal prep and planning and do all that and go to the grocery store and buy it all and do it at home instead of going out to eat. You save a lot of money. And then you need to audit your subscriptions. You know how you get those $5, $7, $9, $10, $11, $15 a month little subscriptions all over, and pretty soon you're subscriptioned out. And so there's all this information about you need to find ways to save money, and people are really, really interested in that right now. And I think it's probably for two reasons. One, a lot of folks, unfortunately, have seen their income change, either gone down or just kind of changed the way they make money, or they feel like it's going to change in the future. And so people have gotten a little more serious about saving money because they're afraid they may not have as much money as they had in the past. For other people, it's usually because they want to save money because they have a goal, right? I'm trying to save money over here because I'd rather put money over here, whether it's to go to a savings account or retirement or a college fund for kids or whatever it might be. I'm trying to save some money. And so I want to see how I can cut my expenses. Now, I know for Donna and I, we got more serious about saving money when we realized these kids eventually that we have are going to want to go to college, and college is like super expensive. And then I realized college is like reverse kidnapping. Right? When somebody kidnaps a kid, they take the kid and they tell him, hey, you send us $50,000, we'll send the kid back. College does the exact opposite. You send us $100,000 or we will send your kid back. They will. We've seen it happen. It'll happen. We save money for all kinds of different reasons. And I think for a lot of us, we think about the last 12 months or so, it's kind of like, you know what? I'm a little more interested now in what God has to say than I was 12 months ago. For whatever reason, whether it has to do with money or family or life or whatever, I wasn't as interested, but I'm more interested now because of all the stuff that's happening, all the things that are going on. I'm actually more interested in what God has to say than maybe I was before. And if you're still not, then maybe this will help. There is a recession coming. And I'm not an economist, okay? Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to make some big, bold prediction. This one is simple math. I kind of look back. In the United States, ever since 1800s, we have had a recession every 5.6 years. I mean, that's just the average. That's normal. That's a normal business cycle. Every 5.6 years, there's another recession. Economists also agree the last recession we came out of was in 2009, early 2010. So it's been 11 years, and we average one every 5.5 years. It's coming. We're twice the average. So we know that things are going to happen. And maybe that is the reason that you want to look at money and what God has to say and all of that. Or it could be something else, but God does have a lot to say about our finances and how we do them and what we use them for and why we hold them and how we spend them and all of that. And so it makes sense to pay attention. And one of the things, you may not know this, one of the things that God says about money is you should save some. He absolutely says you should save some. And God's principles have been in place for thousands of years. And successful people have actually put these principles into practice and seen them work in their life over and over and over. And so today we're going to look in the book of Proverbs and we're going to find some of the principles that God shares with us about how to do this and why to do this. But before we even get that far, Jesus has something to say. And if you've gone to church for a while, you've heard this before. But in Matthew chapter 6, verse 21, Jesus said something that a lot of us are going to go, oh yeah, and you might even be able to finish the statement. He said, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also, right? I mean, some of you are like, not brave. I don't want to say it because they'll look at me if I get it wrong. Don't want to say it out loud. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And if you've heard that before, it's easy to kind of breeze past that. Like, yeah, I've heard that. I know that. Yeah. But just roll that back for a second. where your treasure is. We don't have like boxes and treasure and that kind of stuff, but what do you value the most? And what is most important to you? What is the thing, and if you're not sure how to answer that, what is the thing that you get more excited about than anything else? And if that still doesn't tell you, what is the thing you get more angry about than anything else? Because chances are, whatever it is that gets you the most excited or the most angry is what you value the most, is what you care about the most. And Jesus says, whatever it is that you value the most, whatever it is that you treasure, that's where your heart will be. That's where you, the core of who you are and what you think is important and how you live your life and the decisions you make, that's where all that will be. Whatever it is that you value the most is where your heart will be. And of course this applies across all aspects of life, but it especially applies when it comes to money. And that's why Jesus tells us this, because in the specific context where he was talking about that, when he said that statement, he was talking specifically about money. And Jesus is well aware, your money matters, right? It just does. Your money matters. And if you think about all the time you have to spend making money, spending money, saving money, figuring out how to get more money, I mean, we spend a lot of our time dealing with money matters, and there's nothing wrong with that. You should. But Jesus would also add to that, but your money matters because it matters where you put your heart. And it's easy to get those things confused, like we talked about at the beginning. And so from Jesus' standpoint, he's warning us, he's telling us, make sure you're treasuring the right things, because then your heart will be in the right place. So does God say to save money? He absolutely does. But the why is so important. It matters so much. If you're saving money because there's something inside you that says, when I have more money, I feel safe. That when I'm able to create a life around me where I can kind of lock down and bunker in and make sure everything and all my stuff is safe and all my people are safe, that if that's the reason you're saving money, you might be on the wrong track. If you're saving money because when you go out and buy expensive things and you have nice stuff and you spend a lot of money, it makes you feel better, it makes you feel whole, it kind of gives you a sense of, all right, I'm a good person and I'm enjoying my life now, you may be on the wrong track. If you're saving money because you want to be able to buy stuff to get bigger and better and because you deserve it and I want more and I saw the Tesla and the new model and I want that and I'm going to get that, and you might be on the wrong track. See, God gives us some reasons for saving money. He doesn't say just save. He gives us some reasons that we're going to look at this morning. And so here's what I would say when it kind of comes to this whole motivation and all this other stuff. You've heard the expression that facts don't care about your feelings. You've heard that. Just whatever's true is true, and they don't really, it's not about you, it's about this is just a fact. I would kind of tweak that just a little bit when it comes to money. Cash doesn't care about your heart. It absolutely doesn't care about your heart. And what's so crazy about that is sometimes we can value it so much, chase after it so hard, that we think it cares about us. We put our whole heart into it, and it cares nothing about us at all in any way. And Pastor Corey said this last week, and it was a great example of this. Money is a fantastic tool, but it's a terrible God. It's a terrible God because it will take over. It will actually ruin you. And what Jesus is talking about and what this proverb I want to share with you as we get started is talking about is this thing called materialism. And Proverbs 15:27 says it this way: the greedy bring ruin to their household, but the one who hates bribes will live. He's talking about materialism. And I think the best example of this I found, I was thinking about this and reading about this. There was a bride in Canada. Her name was Susan. It should have been Karen, by the way. But Susan was getting married, and she planned her dream wedding, right? And I don't know, I haven't paid for a wedding yet. I'm sure they're expensive, and I'm not judging anybody, but hers was $60,000, which sounds like a lot to me. So 60 US, $60,000 US. And so she planned this $60,000 wedding, and there was only one problem. She didn't have the money to pay for it. So she came up with a creative solution. She sent out all the invitations to everybody that she wanted to come and be at the wedding and be a part of this special day. And she said, when you RSVP, I would also like you, I'm requesting that you send a $1,500 fee to help pay for the wedding. Which I'd be like, I'm not even buying you a gift, much less giving you $1,500 for your wedding. And she wanted $1,500. And surprisingly, which this actually was, I thought was actually pretty good, 8 people said yes. I mean, I don't have 8 people that give me $1,500 for anything, but she got 8 people to say yes, but nobody else did. And so she went on social media and she ranted and raved about her friends didn't love her, didn't care about her, didn't think she was valuable, didn't want her to be happy, and what a terrible, terrible kinds of friends they were because they wouldn't pay for her wedding. And her husband, or husband-to-be, fiancé, suggested, well, why don't we do it for less? You know, we can still get married. She said, well, obviously you don't care about me either. And she called the marriage off. So, I mean, this lady was materialistic to the extreme, right? And it's easy to look at that and say, okay, you're just a whack lady. Just, you don't get it. That's not how the world works. That's not what's important. But before you just dismiss her, we've all got it in us. We've all got it in us. And I can kind of prove it to you. You know that little iPhone gadgety thing you got in your pocket that's an i9 or 10 or X or I don't even know what they're on now, i27, whatever it is. There was a time where your life was going to be great if you got that phone. And it would arrange everything and make everything great. And it's got such a cool camera and you can put little personal things on it and all this other stuff. And then when the next one comes out, even though that last one was going to change your life, you've got to have the next one to change your life again. That's materialism. You see, it doesn't matter how much you have or don't have. Materialism is really just valuing things in the wrong way. And here's what materialism does. This is why it's so important. This is why Jesus talked about it. This is why Proverbs talks about it. Materialism corrupts your values. You start assigning the wrong value to things. They become way too important. And you stop assigning value to things that are really important. Materialism also consumes your thinking. You've probably had this experience. I know I have. I wanted to get a car a few years ago, and it was all I could think about. I was always looking at this car, and where can I find one, and where can I get it, and how much does it cost? And I was always thinking, I was just consumed by the idea of getting this car. And you've probably had that same experience with something else. Maybe it wasn't a car for you, maybe it was something else, but it just kind of starts to consume you a little bit. It seems like it's so important, and it seems like it's going to be such a difference maker in your life. And then materialism changes how you treat people. And that's probably the worst of all. That people, instead of being valuable and important and worthy in and of themselves, they become tools to help you get what you want. And that's what materialism does. That's why Proverbs says it ruins. It doesn't say it hurts. It doesn't say it holds back. It doesn't say, it needs to be corrected. It ruins your life. And so that's why Jesus warns us about it. That's why Proverbs says you've got to pay attention to it, because materialism can literally ruin your life. And so Jesus' first words when it comes to money, before anything else, before anything practical is, check your heart. Check your heart. Why are you thinking and feeling and acting the way you're thinking, feeling, and acting when it comes to money? You've got to back up and check what's going on inside me before I get worried about the numbers and the places and what we're doing, all right? So you got to check your heart. But Proverbs does give us an incredible plan for saving money. And so we're going to run through just 3 simple steps today. And the first one is, it really doesn't surprise you, but it's to pay attention and be wise. Pay attention and be wise. And it comes right out of Proverbs 27. Proverbs 27 says it this way. The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the price. In other words, you need to plan. And we just talked about a few things. Like I said, a recession is coming. So is that going to impact you? I mean, if you think about your life, think about your job, think about what money you have and your savings and all that. If a recession happens, is that going to impact you? Well, if it is, you might want to start preparing. But even get it more specific. I have the opportunity to pay taxes on April 15th. I already know that because I did my taxes. I could just wait and be surprised on the 15th, or I could put a plan in place. Okay, I've got to get some money together to pay this. Maybe your car needs new tires, and you know that's coming, and you know they cost money, and you're going to have to spend some money on that. Or better yet, maybe the best yet, and I really hope this is true for you guys. Hopefully, you're going to get away this summer, right? And you're going to go on vacation. I mean, last year stole a lot of things. Hopefully, you and your family, you get to go do some great things, and you get to spend some time together, and you have a lot of fun. That costs money, right? So where's that money going to come from? And I'm pretty sure, after last year, who knows? I'm pretty sure we're still going to have Christmas on December 25th this time around. So all these things are coming. So pay attention. Pay attention. It's really no different than the rest of your life. Like if you remember when you're a student, you got a test the next day. What do you do on Sunday night? You try to cram it all in so that you can pass the test tomorrow, right? You prepare. If you've got a client coming in and you've got to make a presentation, you've got your slide deck together. You've gone through it. You know how do you want to make this presentation because you don't want to look like an idiot. If you've got the championship game next week because your team is advanced and you're going to play, you're probably going to go to practice this week, right? You're going to prepare. And so the first thing God says when it comes to saving money is you need to prepare. You need to prepare and be wise. And be wise. And that comes right out of Proverbs 21:20. It says this, the wise store up choice food and olive oil, but the fools gulp theirs down. And what is he talking about? I actually love this verse because what he's saying is the wise and the foolish both, they get from God. God gives to them. God gives us good things. He blesses us. He loves us. He wants us to have good things. So God gives everyone good things. The difference is, what do we do with it? what do we do with it? The wise person sets some aside. The foolish person, it all just runs through their fingers. And at the end of the month, it's just all gone. I ate it all, I spent it all, I used it all. It's just gone. I don't have anything left. And God says that's the difference between a wise person and a foolish person. A wise person gets what I give them and they set some aside. A foolish person gets what I give them and they just use it all up. And at the end, it's all gone and they don't know where it went. And so God's encouragement to you is to be wise. Pay attention and be wise. You've seen this happen, I don't know how many times, where a famous celebrity or athlete or entertainer or even the lottery winner, I mean, they get millions and millions of dollars and, we're like, man, I wish I had that problem, right? And then 2 or 3 years later, they're broke. You're like, how could that happen? How could you do that? Because the wise person sets some aside. The foolish person, it just passes through their hands. See, it's not about the amount. It doesn't matter if you're making $1 million, $100,000, or $1,000. What are you doing with it? The wise person is setting some aside. The foolish person is just running through their hands. It's gone. And when it runs through their hands, they don't have anything left to bless somebody else, to help somebody else, to invest in someone else. It's all gone. And so God says, pay attention and be wise. The second thing he says is to develop a plan. And this comes out of Proverbs 21:5. It says it this way, the plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. Now, have you had this experience? I do this all the time, and I hate it. I hate that I do this, and maybe you do too. You're just kind of going along, and you come across a great idea. Like, I read a lot of books, I listen to podcasts, and talk to a lot of people, and whether it's business or spiritual life or just fitness or whatever it might be, I hear all these great ideas all the time. And I think to myself, oh, I want to do that. Oh, yeah, that would be great. I'm going to do that. And then I don't, right? I mean, you get the idea, this is really good stuff, and I should do that, and then you don't do anything about it. You see, it's the plan that you make that actually takes the good idea and brings it about. And so to do that, there's a 6-letter B word that you need to know and you need to use. And some of you are already like, B, 6 letters, B. The word is budget. The word is budget. Now, last week we talked about the fact that there are savers and spenders, and that most people in most households, when they get married, one person's a saver and one person tends to be a spender. But it's the same way with friends, the same way with brothers and sisters. It doesn't really matter. It just seems like a lot of times we end up with the opposite. And when I hear the word budget, if I'm a saver, here's what I'm thinking. You get really excited, right? You're like, hey, I'm going to get out my spreadsheet and get out my notebook, and let me show you all the stuff I've learned about how we can save some money, and let me show you this, and on the inside, what you're thinking is, I am married to a spender, and I am tired of holding back the tide, and if I can get this budget in place, and I can force him to do what I want to do. Like, no, nobody would do that. Yes, they would. If you're a spender, when you hear the word budget, what you're thinking is, I don't want to do that. That doesn't sound like much fun, but what you'll say is, okay, I guess that's the responsible thing to do, so maybe we should try, but I know what's going to happen. They're going to kind of clamp down on me, and inside you're singing this little song, every party needs a pooper, that's why we invited you. It's like, I don't want to do that because you're stealing my fun. A budget is neither of those things. A budget is not a tool. A budget is not designed to make your life worse or hard or anything else. A budget is simply a plan, and it answers a question. Where did my money go? Where I told it to go. The budget allows you to save some money and put the money where you want it to go instead of it just being gone. Because I know that happens. It's happened to me, and I'm sure it's happened to you, where you thought there was money there, and it's just gone. Probably the best example of this I can think of is, 3 or 4 years ago, my wife and I were kind of re-looking at everything. I mean, we've been fairly good about trying to live on a budget and have a financial plan and all that throughout our life together, but it was just time to kind of review and redo things, and I was kind of looking at stuff, and I looked at, I won't name them, but I looked at the bill from our internet and cable TV provider. It's like $190 to watch TV. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I just couldn't believe that. I said, we are paying this much money to watch TV every month? No. And as we talked about it, we're like, yeah, let's get rid of it. And I know cutting the cord isn't really new anymore, but this was a few years ago. And it kind of motivated us because when we did that, we started looking at some other things. And we found a couple other stuff. We're like, why are we doing this? We never use this. We never go there. We don't really care about that. Why are we spending? And this may not be a lot of money for you, but it was for us. We pretty painlessly cut about $250 a month out of our expenses. That's real money. It wasn't like money before the government taxes it and everybody takes a piece. I mean, this was after all of that kind of money. It was $250 a month, and all of a sudden, we had money to save. And it started to kind of make a difference in our life because let's just take a look at what we're doing and create a plan. And if you hear that and you think, okay, I want to do that, I'm on board, but I'm not a math person. I don't know how to do that. We want to help you. We really do. And that's why we put together this resource page. If you go to mountainridge.org/4U, there is a financial resource page there. And that page is designed to help you. There's all kinds of connections and links to budget tools, to how much money do I want to save to retire, to NerdWallet's got some stuff out there. And we're not endorsing these. We just found them. Like, these are free for the most part, helpful things that if you don't know where to start, this is a great place to start. You can go and sign up and figure this out and get your budget in order. And if you say, I don't like that, I don't want to do that, I don't want to send in my information, I don't want to get online, that's fine too. A piece of paper and a pencil works really well, okay? The point is, just make a plan. Make a plan of some kind. Because if you don't, God says it's going to be really hard for you to save money. Because what will happen is it'll all run through your fingers. All right, so you want to pay attention and be wise. You want to make a plan. And then last, you want to do it by instinct. Do it by instinct. This comes right out of Proverbs 6:6-8. It says it this way: go to the ant, you sluggard. Consider its ways and be wise. The ant has no commander, no overseer, no ruler, yet it stores its provision in summer and gathers food at the harvest. Okay, now, first of all, sluggard is like my favorite word in the whole Bible. Every time I read that, I think, I would be a sluggard. Yeah, I kind of, let you inside my head, which is probably a bad thing to do. But sometimes when I'm sitting on the couch being lazy on the weekend, I kind of hear a voice that says, are you being a sluggard? Are you being lazy? What are you doing? Sluggard was kind of this idea of somebody that just couldn't be bothered. And it's contrasted to the ant. The ant is out there working, doing what's best, even though it's not what's easiest, doing what's needed, even though it's not needed immediately, but the sluggard isn't. And let me explain, because you may not use sluggard like I do. I use it all the time. But you may not use the word sluggard. What does sluggard mean? Sluggard is this person, and you've met them. They're just too wise in their own eyes, right? They got it all figured out. Yeah, I know that's the way it works for everybody else. Yeah, I know that you probably should have a budget. Yeah, I know that you should probably plan ahead. Yeah, I know, I get it, I understand. No, and you're right, that's probably, most people need to do it that way, but I'm different. It's different for me. My situation is more complex. My situation is more complicated. That's who the sluggard is. Because what they're masking is, I am too lazy to do it the way God said to do it. It doesn't apply to me because I would rather not be uncomfortable. I am uncomfortable being uncomfortable, so I'm just going to use whatever I have until it's all gone. That's what God says is the sluggard. And he says, don't be the sluggard, be the ant. The ant isn't doing what's easy, but it is doing what is right. And they're doing it by instinct. And there was a phrase I used to use with my girls. They hated it. I mean, they hated it. And it's funny because I kept repeating it all throughout childhood when it came to homework or chores or anything else. And then finally, I've actually started to hear them say it. And I'm kind of like, I won. They're saying it. But it's a very simple phrase, and it's the same idea. Do what you have to do now so you can do what you want to do later. Do what you have to do now so you can do what you want to do later. And that's exactly what the ant's doing. He's doing it by instinct. He's doing it by habit. And so when it comes to money, how do you do that? And I'll give you 2 quick suggestions. I think the first one is you automate as much as you can. See, I'm guessing for most of you, you probably get paid. Your money goes straight into your checking account, right? Well, go ahead and set it up to where that money then turns around and automatically goes to savings or automatically goes to retirement or automatically goes to whatever it is you're trying to save money for so that you don't have to touch it and you don't have to make that decision every time you get paid. As a matter of fact, Don and I, and I'm just kind of sharing what we do, we've automated almost everything. So here's kind of what a normal month looks like for us. We get paid, and the very first thing that comes out is we give money to God. And we do that through Mountain Ridge Church. We've been a part of different churches throughout our lives, and yes, we give to that church, but really, no, we give to God. It just happens to come through the church that we're giving at, right? And so we get paid, and we give money to God. It happens automatically because it's important to us. We want that to happen right out of the gate. And then we also pay ourselves, right? We set money aside. It goes into savings. It goes into retirement. And then after that, we've automated most of our bills. So the mortgage or the rent or the water bill, whatever, is automated. And here's what happens. We've built in this instinct, this habit now, because what's left is what we have to live on. That's the money we have for groceries or going out to eat or putting gas in the car or whatever it might be. And so automating that has made it much easier. We don't have to make the decision every single week or every single month. And so I would encourage you, that's one way to develop this as a habit. The second thing that you can do is to get some help. Just get some help. If you say, look, I appreciate all the stuff you're saying, I'm not that person. I'm not financial. I'm not math. I don't like that. I don't want to do that. Then just get some help. It's out there. It's available for you. And you can go to that resource page, mountainridge.org for you. There's all kinds of stuff there. There's free stuff on there. There's an actual video series, a YouTube video series with a financial professional. This guy's been in finance his whole career. He's the son of one of our elders. You can trust him. But he takes some time and does 3 little videos. One on what do I do with money in my 20s and my 30s and my 40s and my 60s? What should I be doing with my money? What are some of the common mistakes that people make? And then the last one, he even talks about if I was going to use a financial professional, what should I be thinking about? What questions should I ask? We want to help you. And so if you need that kind of help, that's there. Or just sign up for the financial peace class. But whatever it is, if you need to build this habit in your life, get help. We want to help you. What you don't want to do is end up with the Pavlok band. Have you heard this? Have you seen about this? This is a band that goes on your wrist, and it's about the size of a Fitbit, right? And what it does is this band is actually tied to your bank account. And so if you start spending and you get too close to a preset limit, it starts to zzz, zzz, it vibrates on your wrist. If you go below the limit, it gives you an electrical shock. Tell you to stop it. And some of you savers are like, can I put that on my husband like a collar and just kind of, whoa, lost my mind. Maybe get an app on my phone where I can just shock him anytime I want to. You don't want to do that. God's got better for you than that. Your Heavenly Father wants you to save money, but He wants you to do it for the right reason. So check your heart. Pay attention. Be wise. Develop a plan, and then do it by instinct. Because here's what happens. You're going to need margin in your life. You are. Your life is going to change. You know it's going to change. Sometimes the change is a family change, right? Some of you, we got all kinds of pregnant women walking around, are bringing babies home pretty soon. That's going to be a change, right? There's going to be a financial piece that comes with that too. Or some of you may have kids moving back home that moved out and are coming back, and that's a change. Some of you are taking care of elderly parents, and they may be coming back. And there's all kinds of changes that happen. And when you have margin, you're actually able to respond to that. Maybe your job's going to change, or maybe you want to change careers. Again, when you have margin, it allows you to do that. There's all kinds of things that happen where you have opportunities to bless your kids, to be an encouragement and a help to your friends and your neighbors if you have margin. And some people kind of object to this. Like, wait a minute, aren't we supposed to live in faith? Don't we just kind of go ahead and trust God and not worry about it? Absolutely. But here's the thing. Most of the time, God sends what you need ahead of time. He's giving it to you early. He's telling you, get ready. There's going to be some needs. I'm going to give it to you now, so set some aside. Because things are going to happen. The world is going to change. Recessions come, your family, your work, your life, all these kind of things change. So go ahead, I'm sending you some now. Go ahead and set that aside. And when these things happen, you'll have some margin. And does God come through with the miraculous, the things we can't control, the things we can't prepare for? Absolutely He does. But so many times, He sends it on ahead. He's sending it ahead before you need it, so it'll be there when you need it. See, God is for you. Your Heavenly Father loves you, and He provides richly for you, and He's giving you direction on here's how to live the life I created you to live. And Mountain Ridge Church, we are for you. We want to help you in this process. That's why we do the resources. That's why we're taking time to talk about this. But I know that what God says about money and what the world says about money is different. If you were with us last week, and if you weren't, I encourage you to go back and watch part 1 of Matters of the Heart. Pastor Corey did a phenomenal job talking about debt. But the world looks at debt one way. The world looks at debt and says, borrow whatever you want, however much you need to get what you want now. God says, when you borrow, the borrower becomes a slave to the lender because you're always working to pay back what you owe. And I know that's different, but what God says is different. And this week, kind of the world says, hey, whatever you got, take it, use it, love it, enjoy it, use it all up. And God says, no, be wise. And I want to invite you back for next week because we finish up this series. Because the world also tells us, and this may be, honestly, this may be the biggest obstacle we all have when it comes to money and finances. The world around us constantly tells us, you deserve it, you've earned it, you can have it. And God says, instead, be grateful. And it's a contrast. It's a big contrast. But as you read God's word and hear what God has to say to us, it begins to make sense. Because after all, God's the one that created you, and He knows what's going to be best for you. Let's pray together.